The name Dougal reminds me of that
The movie Dougal?
terrifying animated film.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What the Hell Should I Watch? I'm Steve Stebbing.
And I'm Chloe Stebbing.
And we are the weekly rundown of what we're watching, which may become what you're watching. And we come at you every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time on stevestebbing.ca. And Chloe's back this week. Yay!
I'm back. Yay.
Saved from the dredges of elementary school homework.
Yeah, it's enthralling, really.
Absolutely enthralling. But what do I got this week? I went to the theaters to see a Marvel film, like an MCU Marvel film, because I don't really count Deadpool and Wolverine as an MCU movie, but also the third film in probably the most wholesome trilogy currently going right now, and a really intense film that is now on Blu-ray, and a couple of reviews that we've held back on or haven't talked about at all at length that now have a release and an outlet to see them. But let's get going on what's in the new releases. That's right, fresh for your eyeballs, going back to the MCU with the fourth Captain America film, but the first one without Chris Evans. Instead, we got Anthony Mackie. This is Captain America, Brave New World.
Sam Wilson, the new Captain America, finds himself in the middle of an international incident and must discover the motive behind a nefarious global plan. Starring Anthony Mackie, Danny Ramirez, Shira Haas, Carl Lumbly, Zosha Roquemore, Giancarlo Esposito, Liv Tyler, Tim Blake Nelson, and Harrison Ford. Written and directed by Julius Onah.
So yeah, this is the first film with Anthony Mackie as Cap. He got the Cap mantle after the Disney Plus series. This is also the first time that Harrison Ford has played General Thunderbolt Ross, President Ross in this film. Excitement level of this wasn't exactly huge on how I felt about this movie. It wasn't exactly huge after kind of middling series that Falcon and Winter Soldier was. You just know that this film went through just a shitload of reshoots because I think it was originally completed like almost 2 years ago. So they've gone and retooled it. I know that they retooled a whole villain section that it was the Serpent Society, and there's tied to like Israeli army stuff in there. And of course, October 7th happens, and there's just a bunch of reshuffling to kind of change the politics of the film. This film was also based around a president, a wartime president, as he says in the trailer. So you could bring the whole Trump angle. There's a lot working at this Marvel film just heading into it. And I mean, everyone across the board in this film is just kind of fine. Like they're okay. It really did remind me of the mortality of Harrison Ford, who is now in his 80s and looks very much like he's in his 80s in this film. I love Harrison Ford so damn much, and I'm not prepared for anything to happen to that man. He flies planes, and he was in a plane crash. Like he was the pilot of it, and he crashed into like a golf course or something. I was like, oh, what happened to Harrison Ford? Like I was like concerned about it. So yeah, it just reminded me of that. So that's kind of a bummer. The direction isn't even really that strong in this. Julius Onah directed it and wrote it, like was one of the co-writers on it. But this one feels like a studio job. It doesn't feel like there's any kind of individuality within the filmmaking to it, and even the cinematography of the film as well. Was done by a Kramer Morgenthau, who shot Creed 2 and Creed 3, which are both great movies, good looking sports movies, but also shot Thor: The Dark World, which is one of the lackluster Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, and Terminator Genesis, which for my bottom dollar is probably the worst in that entire franchise. But that's just Alan Taylor calling him to work both those times because he directed both those films. I don't know. This movie's just really bland. like at its core. Some cool fight sequences, but largely the story is strung together by some really predictable and very bland things. If you were expecting that Captain America Brave New World would be a long awaited sequel to The Incredible Hulk and a kind of quasi sequel to Eternals, then I guess this movie's for you, really, because Tim Blake Nelson comes back into this. Do you remember The Incredible Hulk, the Edward Norton one? Do you remember Dr. Samuel Stearns? Near the third act of the movie, he gets knocked over and he gets like a head wound, and then you see like Bruce's gamma blood dripping into it.
Yeah.
He's the villain for this film.
Red Hulk?
Well, no, Red Hulk is something of his creation. In saving Ross's life, gives him gamma blood to basically save his life. So General Ross turns into the Hulk, which was all given away by the trailers, which is another issue that I have with trailers and giving shit away. This is like the climactic third act battle is Cap versus the Hulk. And I really feel like they shouldn't have led with it in marketing. Maybe they just didn't think they had anything else. Because honestly, they don't really have anything else in this film, if we're being honest.
I have the same grievances with like modern trailers because I find myself quite a few times watching a trailer and then by the end of the trailer being like, well, I guess I don't need to see the movie. Like, I already know everything that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, they
yeah.
need to go back to being more ambiguous. Because maybe it would bring a more audience in to see this film. It did do like 120 mil in its opening weekend, so it still is doing that lower end of Marvel money. But once word of mouth catches up with this film, it's going to kind of take it down. And even the end credit stinger, like which Marvel's known for, is super bland and uninteresting as well. And there's only one. So I don't know, kind of against this film, really. Like it's just so middling. I could have been a Disney Plus release, if I'm being honest. But they finally do address, because in the end of Eternals, a celestial being is coming out of the water and they freeze it halfway and it basically turns into like a land structure that's jutting out of the water. And they have not regarded it at all since. Largely, I guess, because the Eternals wasn't a successful part of the MCU, but it still happened within your universe. Like this still happened and nobody has said anything about it until this film, where like a large part of it is that they're able to mine a new element out of this thing, which is adamantium, bringing the whole Wolverine into this MCU. So we're getting another glimpse that mutants are coming, or at least Wolverine's coming. There's also plot points in this film that has Sam Wilson being asked to reboot the Avengers. So basically, this is the only thing that Brave New World is good for, because they already botched a shitload in this film, including the Serpent Society, which just gets immediately dog walked in this film. Giancarlo Esposito is supposed to be Sidewinder, the leader of this group, which is a great villain casting to have in
He's
this.
always the villain.
He really is. He really is. But he's good at it though. Like he really is good at it. So the fact he's doing a Marvel one is just kind of like ding. Yeah, okay, fine. But they kind of really make him a dog with just absolutely no bite in this. So I don't know how they salvage that. Yeah, this one just really doesn't work. Had too many issues with it. It's really also hard to receive this movie in this current political climate when it comes to president overreaches and stuff. A little much. A little much. I know we're supposed to separate what's going on in the world with the art that we're consuming, but sometimes it's just a little too hard to do that. Let's move on to something far, far different, but something that will at least make you smile. This is Paddington in Peru.
Paddington returns to Peru to visit his beloved Aunt Lucy, who now resides at the home for retired bears. With the Brown family in tow, a thrilling adventure ensues when a mystery plunges them into an unexpected journey. Starring Hugh Bonneville, Emily Mortimer, Julie Walters, Jim Broadbent, Carla Taus, Olivia Colman, Antonio Banderas, and featuring the voice of Ben Whishaw. Directed by Dougal Wilson.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the debut of just an unhinged couple minutes in your viewing pleasure. This is Hanna's video review of Paddington in Peru.
So I just finished watching Paddington. The reason I am using something different from my face is because I didn't want to use my face. Because I get a little weird when I use my face. Like, I like to shake my phone a lot to zoom in on my face rapidly. So, anyway, to the rating. Marmalade out of 10. Good movie. Really stupid and goofy. When, at the start of the movie, when one of the nuns was speaking or singing, and she threw the acoustic guitar into the air, and I was like, it's gonna land on her head. It didn't. She grabbed it. I expected slapstick comedy, guys. I'm not the smartest. Guys. Anyways. Give me a second. I need to get water. A great movie. Marmalade out of 10. Bear out of 10. Paddington. He was riding in his umbrella. Funny and cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
All right. That's your sister's thoughts on the film.
Marmalade out of 10.
Marmalade out of 10. Left us in suspense to grab some water. I've told them from an editorial point of view that we need more cohesion for their spots. Maybe have their water at the ready would be
Yes.
good. And we're now educated on the phone etiquette, so they like to shake their phone. Some of my thoughts on the film. There's big boots to fill for Dougal Wilson, who was the unfortunate named after a terrible animated film from 2005. But taking over for Paul King is big shoes to fill, because Paddington is like to this point like a purely fantastic franchise. Like, it's so warm hearted, and Paddington 2 is a phenomenal film. Just so well done. Absolutely great film. Ben Whishaw is adorable and perfectly cast as the voice of Paddington. For this film, Olivia Colman is a really great addition to the cast and knows what to do immediately. Like, she always knows the assignment, and she plays suspicious so well immediately in this film, and I thought it was great. Antonio Banderas as well. He feels like a veteran actor that does a lot of work and then every now and then shines through, and this is one of those shine through films, I thought. For some reason, Sally Hawkins didn't return to the role of Mrs. Brown in this film, and Emily Mortimer took over. I'm not really sure what the story is there. Probably just a scheduling thing, but is what it is. I don't know. Have you seen any of the Paddington movies?
I think I saw the first one, but they came out like after I don't know. When did the first one come out?
2014 or 2015 would be the first one. And the second one is 2017, I think.
Yeah, so I was out of that age range. I do remember seeing it though, because I think my brother was kind of into it for a little while. Yeah, but like from what I remember, it was pretty solid. I mean, British bear.
Mm-hmm.
So
British Peruvian bear. He's a Peruvian bear, and I really like that the story tackles into his origins and him going home, which is kind of cool. But I mean, like I said at the top, it's a big debut feature for Dougal Wilson, who was a music video director before. A lot of like British artists. He made a music video for Massive Attack, Temper Trap, Coldplay, and a whole bunch more. And then Eric Wilson comes back, the cinematographer. He shot all 3 of the Paddington movies now. And they do kind of leave it open for a bit more, too, because they have a really great Hugh Grant cameo at the end as Phoenix Buchanan, who's the villain of the second film. But it doesn't really have the same depth as the first 2 films. It becomes more of a kind of like a wackier adventure because they are palling around in Peru and everything. But it's still got that sweetheart to it. And I think that's what wins through when it comes to these films. So far, it's probably the best family film of 2025 so far. That's the bar that's been set. And yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun to experience Paddington again. Definitely fun for the whole family, I think, because I think it has a little bit of a broad appeal, I think. All right, let's move on to what's new on Blu-ray. All right, new this week. I believe it's nominated for an Academy Award, just one, but it's a film that I was waiting in 2024 to see. Finally got to catch up with it in 2025, and now it's on Blu-ray. This is September 5.
During the 1972 Summer Olympics in Munich, Germany, an American sports broadcasting team must adapt to live coverage of the Israeli athletes being held hostage by a terrorist group. Starring Peter Sarsgaard, John Magaro, Ben Chaplin, and Leonie Benesch. Written and directed by Tim Fellbaum.
The trailer for this film is so intense, so much so that I knew that this was going to be a well-done movie and it's going to be one of those tight edited thrillers. Even though, you know, it's a historical film, so we know what the outcome was on this hostage situation at the 72 Olympics. And there is a subsequent movie about that as well called Munich, done by Steven Spielberg. But doing it from this perspective of the TV crew, I think is really fascinating, putting it into the eye of being broadcast television and breaking the news and trying to get the story from a very dangerous vantage point. I think that that's very fascinating. John Magaro, Peter Sarsgaard, and Ben Chaplin are all phenomenal. They're all proven great dramatic actors, so they do what they do best, honestly. Leonie Benesch is who I was excited to see in this film, playing a German in this movie, playing kind of like the interpreter as well as someone in the crew. But this is cool to see her because I really liked her in The White Ribbon and The Teacher's Lounge from, I think it was 2 years ago now. Just a really, really, really great actress. So it's cool to see her in English language film. And this is honestly the first film I've seen from Tim Fellbaum. He usually makes German sci-fi films. I think he has 2, maybe 3 feature-length films. I've never seen them. So for him to pivot from sci-fi to this very gritty, embedded, true story journalistic film is fascinating. I don't know if journalistic is a word. Might have to strike that one. I don't know. But people online are calling this film propaganda. Of course,
because it's about Israelis.
It's because it's about Israelis, and of course, Israel and Palestine. The ongoing war is so much more in the magnifying glass right now. So if it involves Israelis or it involves Palestinians, it's going to get this kind of mudslinging. I don't think it tries to play either side. I think it tries to play an event in time that was being covered by a media group, and the politics of the matter weren't at play within it. It's just the violence and shock of the immediate actions. And that's kind of how I took it in. So I didn't really see it as waving any sort of propaganda for either side. The hate always gets amplified, and I don't think it's really warranted in the case of a film like September 5.
And I think in the current political climate that we are, basically anything that's history related is going to be labeled as propaganda from one side or the other.
It really is, and that's the unfortunate thing, and it's the tough road that any art will take now. And you wonder how it will get shaped by it. I mean, the Trump administration right now is banning books, banned Julianne Moore's children's book, which is about trying to feel self-love when you have freckles. It's called like Strawberry Freckles or something like that. And that book has
Um,
been banned now by the Department of Defense.
do you know the reason?
No.
Just because education is the enemy.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to shut down the Department of Education as well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is where we are. We're almost to Fahrenheit 451, where they're going to be burning books and poetry and old literature and stuff like that. It's kind of where we're at. So, anyways, this I feel vindicated and validated in the fact that this actually is one of the best films of 2024 in my opinion. It's quick and breezy. It's like an hour and I think hour and 40 at most with credits. So it's a really quick blast of intensity. And the filter they put on is brilliant. I absolutely love the way it looks because it has that early 70s grain on it. And I think it would make a really great double feature with that Spielberg film I talked about, Munich. To do a back-to-backer with that one would be really cool. And it's actually, coincidentally, John Majero's first film. He was an extra on Munich. So there's a full circle Hollywood moment right there.
Beautiful.
Exactly. Beautiful. Gotta love it. All right, let's move on to what you can stream at home. So right on the streaming pile this week, Chloe, I've got one that we've been sitting on for a bit because we didn't know in what capacity it was going to be released or how we were going to review it. This one is a really interesting one. This is called Grand Theft Hamlet.
Two struggling actors find solace from lockdown isolation by staging Hamlet and Grand Theft Auto Online, battling griefers as they connect through William Shakespeare. Written and directed by Sam Crane and Penny Grills. Available on Mubi. So I guess Mubi picked it up.
Yeah, Mubi picked this one up for streaming. It's available as of this week. And yeah, we've been sitting on this one for a bit because we didn't know whether Spark Festival is going to be picking it up. And then all of a sudden, VIF had it. And I didn't realize VIF had it until I think we're a handful of the way through the festival. And I think we just dropped it in our VIF coverage, just like a quick little tidbit. But honestly, when Marina sent this to us, I didn't know at all what I was getting into. And then reading into it, you find out that Sam Crane and Penny Grillis are married and kind of jumped into this project as kind of like the first thing that they've ever done in this kind of documentary field. And I think it's probably a hard sell, just the interface of this film. But if you have the patience, I feel like this one opens itself up. And I also think the shared trauma of the pandemic and lockdown gives you a sort of interest in this film.
Yeah, for sure. And just, it's something that hasn't been done before. Like, it's a spectacle in and of itself just because of that. An entire film and play constructed within GTA Online. Like, that's just insane.
It's crazy too, because beyond the organization of the play, you have people just yearning for a connection that they don't know when they're going to get back to a new world. People that are getting the game and had never played a video game before at all, but they had just heard about this project and they had the training in the background and they wanted to do something. So there's just a lot of just like beautiful human connection in this film through a
Yeah.
video game.
Just that cultivating of a community
Mhm.
is really beautiful in this film.
Something that I feel could almost be a conversation to push back against the stigma that video games are for loners.
Yeah, for sure. I
And
mean,
so
yeah,
I
of course there's weirdos in the video game community, but there's weirdos in every community.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it just kind of sucks that they're the ones that are pushed to the forefront when it comes to public perception still.
Yeah. It's the stigma. It's always facing the stigma. I think it's a beautiful piece of art that came out of a very dark period in our collective generational memories. And it made me want to play GTA again. A little bit. Maybe you want to jump back into GTA 5, especially before whenever this new one's coming out. Especially, it's supposed to be this year, so
We'll see.
we'll see. All right, next up on another streaming service. This is a film that I reviewed almost 5 years ago, but has now finally found a streaming home, and it's called Rocks.
A young teenage girl finds herself struggling to take care of herself and her younger brother after being abandoned by their single mother with no choice but to live out on the streets. Starring Bucky Bakray, Kosar Ali, D'Angelo Osai Kisadeu, Shania Monique Grayson, Ruby Stokes, Tahida Begum, Afi Okaija, and Anastasia Demetrio. I said that one right because I feel like I remember that name from somewhere. Okay.
You got it.
Awesome.
You got it.
Yes. Directed by Sarah Gavron, available on BritBox.
You've been rocking the names this week. Even
Been
the first
trying.
one I thought was going to trip you up. The first one I thought was going to trip you up was, you just kind of rocked right over it, was Zosha Roquemore.
I said that right?
You saw the X, you saw the O, you were like, Zosha.
I can read, guys.
Stars, explosions.
Yeah. Jesus.
Good stuff. Yeah, this is a film, a tiny little British film that I feel like has had the long journey to find from a small limited release to now actually having like a streaming home on BritBox. It's a super affecting film that hit me like in the feelings like a sledgehammer, like crazy. Like,
yeah, it sounds rough.
It's so well done. The central cast of girls, of friends in this one, they are so great. I love their performances because they feel like a real, raw, connected bunch of girls. Like, this is a real group of friends and everything. And the conviction of their story really comes through big time. And Sarah Gavron, I feel like it has to have a connection to the director for the film to feel so grounded and so real. So the director almost is like a piece of that as well. And she is a very special filmmaker, Sarah Gavron. She did a film called Brick Lane that was good, but she also did a film called Suffragette with Carey Mulligan. It's a really, really solid film as well. And she brings on a cinematographer named Helene Louvart, who I enjoyed with a film called Beach Rats, which was the first time I saw Harris Dickinson in a film. She went on to shoot Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, which I think is one of the most important films of all time. It's a Criterion Collection film, but like one that just honestly needs to be seen, especially in the women's health sector of America right now. It very much is an important film. She also shot The Last Daughter for Maggie Gyllenhaal and La Chimera for Alice Rohrwacher. And this film is like a really well shot film that also is a big contributor to how on board and side by side you feel with each of these characters. Just a strong coming of age story that has great perspective. And if you're looking for just a great movie in general, broad across the board, whether you're into movies or a deep cinephile, you can't go wrong with Rocks. It's just a really, really great film. I reviewed this film December 3rd, 2020 for On the Shift. I think at then that time it probably would have been Shane Hewitt at the time, because I think Drex would have been gone from The Shift by that point. Probably somewhere in the iTunes archives as well. But it's really taken its sweet time to get here. And I really hope that people give it a chance. But in this day and age, it always gets buried by some big Hollywood film. So no one sees these films. So to give it a platform, that's what I'm doing right here. All right, let's move on to series mode. We're going to finish it up with a couple of animated ones. This one is, well, this is Pixar. This is Win or Lose.
Follows a middle school softball team in the week leading up to their championship game. Each episode is told from the perspective of a different character. Featuring the voices of Will Forte, Isaac Wang, Ian Chen, Joe Firestone, Winston Vengapalli, Milan Ray, Josh Thompson, Aaron Keefe, Rosie Foss, Rosa Salazar, Chanel Stewart, Dorian Watson, Lil Ray Howery, Melissa Villasenior, Flula Borg, Kylie Curran, and Rhea Seahorn. created by Carrie Hobson and Michael Yates, available on Disney+.
So yeah, this is a new Pixar series for Disney Plus, but it is a completely original idea. It's not based on any pre-existing IP. It's just basically about this middle school baseball team in the couple days leading up to the championship game. And it's all done perspective wise. Like each episode is a different perspective. Disney gave me the first 4 episodes of it, and the only recognizable name or voice that you notice is Will Forte in this. That said, the voice cast that comes together in this is really, really funny. I found myself laughing so much during this show. It is just so well written, especially the episode 1 where the main character's anxiety comes out as sweat, and then it all forms up to this caterpillar looking thing that's always on her shoulder named Sweaty. And some of the things that Sweaty says all the insecure things, right? So really, really funny stuff. Kind of reminiscent, obviously, of Inside Out. There's a lot of stuff at play when it comes to emotion and closing yourself off to people and stuff. But really, really interesting stuff coming from 2 showrunners that are newcomers to it. They both were in the animation department of a few of the feature films, but this is their first thing on their own. My only thing is, I don't know if there's enough to be drawing viewers in other than the Pixar name. I don't really see an ad campaign with this. I don't really see how they're going to bring in new viewers with this one. It just seems to exist for the animation nerds or the Pixar nerds. I don't see it being bigger than that. That said, I hope people do check it out because, like I said, the first 4 episodes are really great. And there's just like an emotional consistency to Pixar I always really, really like. So you liked Inside Out. I say anyone that likes Inside Out will like Win or Lose. Have you even heard about this show?
No, I didn't hear about this at all, no.
Yeah, so like I said, there's like 0 ad campaign. Like even on the Roku or anything, there's no like ticker or like poster or anything like that. So I don't know. All right, let's finish out the streaming this week with the return of a series that I didn't know was coming so quickly.
I wasn't expecting it at all.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute welcome surprise. But we got more Invincible.
An adult animated series based on the Skybound/Image comic about a teenager whose father is the most powerful superhero on the planet, featuring the voices of Stephen Yun, Sandra Oh, and J.K. Simmons. Created by Robert Kirkman, available on Prime Video.
Yeah, so there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of character building in season 2. There's just a lot of a lot happens, but there's also a lot of build, a lot of death, a lot of chaos. But season 3, it feels like in some ways we're gearing towards this situation. Omni-Man's not really the villain anymore. You know what I mean? There's certain realities that were so black and white at the end of season 1 that aren't anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of have a prediction of who's going to be the next big bad. And they've kind of been hinting towards it a lot in the new season. I'll be surprised if they go through with it, but it is Kirkman, so.
Yeah, the chances of absolutely devastating us but creating something wholly original are high. I think Kirkman is a really, really gifted storyteller. And given that he had complete control over all of his entities, they would have turned out a lot differently. But Invincible is clearly all his. Like, this is his direction. And I love Otley's art. I love seeing it in movement. You know what I mean? Going from that comic panel to see it in movement is so cool. There's new cast members this season. Simu Liu is in this season. Aaron Paul and Jonathan Banks for the Breaking Bad connection are both new characters in this season.
Who's Aaron Paul in this?
Powerplex.
I don't even think I remember who that is.
I love Jason Mantzoukas in this show a lot, though.
Yeah,
big fan of him. But yeah, very happy that Invincible is back, and we will bring this back at length once we've both finished the current season. All right, I added a few things to my library, so let's check it out. All right, this one, I got the email from Warner Brothers about this one. And when it hit my inbox and I went to reply, I was like, yes, 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 yes. Like, I was so pumped about it. And I already have it on DVD, but to get it on a brand new 4K, and it has a reunion special on it. It is Constantine in
Okay.
4K. Keanu Reeves, Shia LaBeouf. You've seen Constantine, right?
I think so, yeah.
This movie is, to me, it's super underrated. I think it's really great. I believe they're working on possibly doing a sequel. I don't know how far along that is, but I'm psyched about it. This 4K has a featurette called 2 Decades of Damnation, Keanu Reeves and Francis Lawrence reunion. And yeah, I'm a big Keanu Reeves fan, so I'm all over this. Also on DVD, I got this a while back and I thought I'd talked about it. I have actually reviewed the film before. I got the DVD of I Like Movies, which is this indie Canadian film that I adore. I adored this film so much. Chandler Levac is just a new emerging Canadian talent that I really, really like. I'm excited for what she's going to bring out next, which is a film called Mile End Kicks. I think it's going to be in 2025. Barbie Ferreira from Euphoria is in it, as well as Jay Baruchel. And I did review this. I reviewed it on the March 9th episode originally when it was playing in a limited release in Canada. But now that it's on DVD, check it out because it's so relatable. It really is relatable. Also on DVD, I got Between the Temples with Carol Kane and Jason Schwartzman. This is basically about a rabbi training a woman for her bat mitzvah, and it's just ridiculous chemistry between Jason Schwartzman and Carol Kane. And I reviewed it on the August 23rd episode, so not as long ago as I Like Movies, but definitely a winning film, especially if you want to see a great comedy that is a man and woman comedy that isn't driven by a rom-com formula. And I really appreciate that about it. And lastly, I got on Blu-ray the complete series of I Love Lucy.
Nice.
Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz, like the original, and it also has the pilot of the series as well as the Lucy and Desi, Lucy Loves Desi, or what their variety show that they had. It's on here. It's 9 seasons, 33 discs. It is a behemoth of a set, but I saw it on the list to pick up, and I'm like, oh, it's like the origins of comedy. So why wouldn't I want to put that in the collection? It's some classic stuff. So good old Lucille Ball. And I also have Life with Lucy, which was like the last series she did before retirement. So I've bookended her career. I also have some of her movies through like the long trailer through Warner Archive. So I apparently have a bigger Lucille Ball collection than I thought I did. All right, I got some reminders before we head out of here. All right, first up, I just talked about this movie probably a couple of weeks ago. It's on Prime Video, but you can also buy it on Blu-ray now. It stars Jude Law and Ty Sheridan. It's called The Order. It is Jude Law taking down white supremacists in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho in the 80s. Have you seen this one yet?
I did watch it a couple days ago, yeah.
It's a great film, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's
Children doing Nazi salutes, chilling.
Right? And it's eerily calm for a movie sometimes. Like it has certain like moments of absolute calm and you're like, whoa, this is weird. And the ending's wild. I think a great film, The Order, it's on Blu-ray. A film that's not so great that's on Blu-ray is a film called Werewolves with Frank Grillo playing a scientist in I don't know. I just don't believe it. Lou Diamond Phillips is in this movie. You know, it's about a supermoon that turns everyone into werewolves. So then they have to wear a werewolf block to save themselves from the moon. And it's not good. It feels like it had potential. And then when you're watching it has potential for all of probably about 15 minutes. And then it loses it all. It just disappears. And oh boy, I wanted so much more from this movie and I never got it. we're about to head out of here, but I know this week we have a but.
Yeah, we do. So I checked out a movie on Prime, and it's pretty crazy. It's called Grafted.
A bright but socially awkward exchange student takes her craving for popularity to horrifying heights. Starring Joanna Sun, Jess Hong, Eden Hart, Jared Turner, Seppi Tua, Mark Mitchinson, and Jeanette MacDonald. Written and directed by Sasha Rainbow.
I didn't even realize the director's name, Sasha Rainbow. That's
Sasha
sick.
Rainbow. She's got a great name.
Yeah.
She really does.
He dies quite horrifically, and she moves to Australia to live with her aunt and her cousin. And this film is gross. It's not crazy heavy in the body horror. It more focuses on skin removal.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a part where like she takes like, I know that it's a specific grafting tool, like it's a medical instrument, but you'd get the same effect with like a potato peeler, and she uses it on the inside of her thigh, and it's just gross. There's a lot of this that it's gross, but there's also a really interesting angle of like traditional Chinese culture in it, which was kind of cool. I don't really want to give too much away because it does a little bit rely on the shock factor, but a lot of skin gets taken.
Well, it is
A lot
in
of
its hot.
faces removed.
It is in the high 70s on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. So it's not a perfect film,
Yeah.
but for a horror enthusiast like myself, it kind of scratches that itch.
Nice.
So, and I believe it was released in 2024.
Yeah, it is fairly new. Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty cool. All right. So Grafted. Check that one out. All right. We're about to get out of here, but what am I going to talk about next week? That's right. A taste of next week. Chloe, this is one we've been waiting for because the next piece of insanity from the mind of Osgood Perkins, with help from Stephen King in the form of a short story, we get The Monkey. And the trailer for this movie is wild. I have
There's
no idea.
like elements of dark comedy, which is amazing.
Yeah. You know, I think that this is going to push more of the comedic edge to it. And I've been waiting for this from Oz now, especially after seeing the Q&A for Longlegs. He is such a funny guy. So I'm excited. And he was super pumped about this movie when we saw that Q&A.
Yeah.
So
I actually really like the choice for the lead. Every time I see him, though, I immediately think of Divergent, and I think of the scene where Shailene Woodley goes to talk to him, and he's like, "What makes you think you can talk to me?" And that makes me laugh every time. But I do really like that actor, so.
Theo James. Yeah, he was supposed to be the action hero of that series. And, well, we know what happened to the Divergent movies. They just weren't very good.
I still liked them.
It's like the guilty pleasure that you wear on your sleeve.
Yeah.
Stay up there with the Maze Runner movies, you.
There's smuggling in there.
But that brings us to the end of the episode. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads, and Blue Sky at The Evil Dead.
You can find me on Letterboxd at HoneyBunChloe.
And you can find all of these episodes on stevestebbing.com. Also go to the YouTube page, Steve Stebbing, or at The Evil Dead, and give us a like and subscribe there. And you can also find us on shiftheads.ca. You can also hear me every week on Shane Hewitt and the Night Shift Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Toronto's News Talk 1010, found on the iHeartRadio network. And we've emptied out our list for this week, so we got to fill it up again. Until next time, bye-bye.
What the hell is Marmalade out of 10?
When one of the nuns who were speaking.
It's funny because my speech pattern is just the slightest bit more refined than theirs.